All right, guys, quiet down for a moment. Certainly no love lost this week between Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake and Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. In a New York Times Magazine article, Mosby accuses the mayor and then Police Commissioner Anthony Batts of giving out lots of misinformation about Freddie Gray, including the number of stops that the police van made. Mosby says she told them to stop, but says they did not listen. The mayor says Mosby rushed to charge the 6 officers and takes great exception to the New York Times article.
Political pressure is real when you are in big jobs, and you can't bow to political pressure and charge when you're not ready. Because she didn't do that, I'm not to blame. I did my job.
All right, JM.
Well, she did her job. She's out of a job. Anthony Batts is out of a job, and Marilyn Mosby will be out of a job. So Marilyn Mosby right now is trying to salvage her legacy. I don't think that the mayor should have punched down on this one, but I understand why she did.
You do?
I do.
Why?
It's human nature, because she feels like she's being attacked. I think this mayor, there's a lot that I've disagreed with her on, but she is trying to leave her position as gracefully as possible, and she sees the politics in this. She sees what Marilyn Mosby is doing, and she's defending herself. The problem is, by doing that, we're all talking about it right now, and I think most people that objectively look to what happened at the city state's attorney's office see that Marilyn Mosby got this wrong, and she will not win a re-election.
Very early in my political career, there was a snowstorm, and I remember the city blamed the state for failing to plow the roads, and the state blamed the city for failing to plow the roads. And at the end of the day, the constituents who really matter fail to distinguish between the two. When there's a failure of government, people do not distinguish between who's right and who's wrong, who's at fault. They lament the situation.
All right, well, it's not going to snow for a while, so let me move on to you. I want to ask you a question. You're a political insider. I mean, you really are an insider, so we can't ask you or expect too much from you on this. But what do you think about these two leaders squabbling?
At the bottom line for me is it's frustrating and it's disheartening to see these two very powerful, talented women taking punches at each other. We have to really sift through the politics, as Jimmy said, sift through the politics of it and see what's really happening. Is someone trying to rewrite history? Is someone trying to defend their legacy? Let's take it for what it is, but I think it's unfortunate that we have to watch these leaders go at each other.
I have to go back and just agree with the premise of what Len said, which is, in the end, who is shafted in this situation? And it's the citizens of Baltimore City. And I've had it. I'm disgusted. You look at Baltimore, you look at Chicago, you look at Detroit, you look at these cities with a one-party Democrat monopoly that ruins people's lives and drives people into the ground, steals $70 million from children, allows people to be slaughtered on their streets, and there are no answers.
Do you really believe, Nicolay, that these cities would be better under Republican leadership?
Absolutely.
Without
Tell
question.
me a Republican city where people are dropping dead like flies.
They're Republican cities with 90% white population. Let's talk about cities that really deal with everyday problems every day.
Yes.
Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, Marilyn Mosby are doing the best they can to feed the constituency with hope, with opportunity, and ideas to fix the problems.
You are joking me.
No way.
So when you have murder rates that keep going through the roof,
both of you.
Well, two things. First of all, you bring up constituency, and I think that is one of the miscalculations that Marilyn Mosby had from the very beginning. Who are the constituents? Is it the people that are trying to survive in this city or the rioters? Second of all, on a sub-story with this, I have a problem with Marilyn Mosby disclosing a personal conversation between her and the mayor, and I think that's very problematic going forward. When you have top elected, officials in the city that are going to be second-guessing, what a private conversation is going to be leaked to the media at a future date, I think that was inappropriate and a problem.
This is the definition of insanity. I'm sorry. Doing the same thing over and over and over again. We have not elected a single Republican in the city since 1939, and I'm sorry. I think all of Baltimore's problems are political. We have no, diversity of voices and political opinions, and we keep repeating the same mistakes because we can't get ourselves out of this hole.
When you are in leadership positions in a time of crisis, the most admirable trait that you can demonstrate to the people you serve is an acceptance of responsibility. And what we saw in this case, from the outside looking in, are two very capable and appealing leaders of the city deflecting responsibility on one another. I don't think it reflects well on either one of them
Well,
respectfully.
how capable they are gets pulled into question right now. I mean, the response from the mayor was deplorable, and then the rush to bring in these charges from the state's attorney was equally as deplorable. The question right now, it is what it is, okay? I mean, we can sit here and relitigate this thing over and over. There's one person that still has a job when it's all said and done. That's Marilyn Mosby, and she's trying to keep it.
But at the end of the day, when we keep talking about Republicans haven't been elected, so the people of this city, they are choosing the leaders they want. Maybe we need to choose different leaders. I'm not sure if we need to choose a different party.
Or maybe we need to change ourselves and get back to morals and get back to family and get back to self-responsibility.
I'm all about
okay,
the issues.
I mean,
Let's just talk about the issues.
I don't care who the police commissioner, who the mayor, who the city state's attorney, who the councilman, who the governor, who the president is. It's not going to fix any of the underlying problems in these major cities. But people want quick fixes.
There is some good news for Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. I want to touch on this for just a moment. A just released Goucher poll shows that Hogan enjoys a 70% approval rating among Republicans, 85%, and Democrats 69%. Shows that Hogan's not supporting Donald Trump actually has helped him in the poll. So there he is, Larry Hogan and his guitar.
What helps Larry Hogan in the polls is not fleecing the entire state. And Democrats and Republicans are down with that. He made a mistake on this Trump thing, by the way. He's been a great governor. I love Larry Hogan. He will obviously win a second term. But he delivered on his campaign promise, which is, I'm going to stop squeezing you out of your hard-earned money. And Democrats seem to be down with that program.
And the benefit of that is we're #1 in the nation in job creation.
Right.
Look what some of these great ideas do for people. I love it.
I think in a way we're kind of going back in our politics to the 1980s, where Hogan, and I don't want to torture the analogy, but he's running as Reagan. He's likable, he's warm, he's sunny. He has an easily defined, digestible vision for the state. And the Democrats, the opposition party, continue to define themselves by the legislative wing of their party. And it's a failed strategy. The people of Maryland aren't buying what the Annapolis insiders are selling.
30 seconds.
And it speaks to a much larger problem within the Democratic establishment.
Right. Well, you look at the way the Democrats went against Larry Hogan when he was running and, made him out to be, Lucifer in the flesh. And it turned out that Larry Hogan is a decent human being. And he also delivered on his campaign promise, which is, I'm not going to tax you anymore.